Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this Art in the Spotlight talk with Dana Slijboom. Hi, Dana.
Hey, hello. Hi, Renee.
Hi. For those of you who don't know me, I am Renée van der Avoird, the Assistant Curator of Canadian Art at the Art Gallery of Ontario, and I'm pleased to be joining you from Toronto, which is the territory of the Anishinaabe, the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Huron-Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee, who have cared for this land since time immemorial. And I know Dana is also joining us from Toronto today. Recognizing this in a meaningful way means making commitments to sharing and upholding responsibility for the land and for those who live on the land. For today's talk, we are happy to take questions at the end of the talk. Please put them in the Q&A box and we'll get to them after the talk. And before I introduce Dana properly, I would like to thank the TD Ready Commitment as lead sponsor of talks and performances for generously supporting this event. So Dana Slijboom is a Canadian-Dutch artist living and working in Toronto. She holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts from the Gerrit Rietveld Academie in Amsterdam and has been included in multiple group exhibitions in both Canada and Europe, as well as multiple solo exhibitions in Toronto. In 2019, her most recent solo exhibition was presented at Erin Stump Projects, and she's part of a group exhibition at the Plum Project Space this year, also in Toronto. So Dana, many of us know you for your really wonderful, boldly colored and patterned paintings that play with tropes or symbols from nature and pop culture and really fuse the realm of the digital into oil painting, which is obviously more of a traditional way of working. So to start, can you tell us about your painting process and how that notion of the digital plays into it?
Yes, so basically every painting starts with a digital sketch. I use a basic painting program, so it's there's no like frills, no gimmicks. I start sketching digitally. Sometimes it happens fast. Sometimes I'll come at it with a bit of an idea and I can kind of almost make the painting before starting to paint it. So some of the sketches are almost finished works before they're even brought to canvas. I started digitally drawing like maybe 7 years ago, and it was something that I just immediately took to. I liked kind of the casualness of it. I liked that I didn't have to put it on paper and, you know, had a pile of sketches or something. I really loved this like pixelated line because it was just, it had kind of like an energy that I couldn't find with just like a pencil or something. It was like there's like a, you know, that bouncy line gives you something immediately that I didn't find anywhere else. Working digitally also just gives you an infinite amount of control, and I tend to like having a lot of control when I make my work. Everything I do is pretty considered, and so being able to delete something completely, being able to cut and paste something, it's like something that I really like. I can really get into it. So then what happens when I'm done with the digital sketch is I bring it onto canvas, and it's usually it's oil paint, which is kind of like the anti-digital, I think. And I choose oil paint because I think it's just a beautiful material. It's got the colors in oil. The colors you can get in oil paint are, they're richer than what you would get anywhere else. And it takes me a while to paint them. Sometimes it'll take 3 days. Sometimes after 3 days, the painting didn't work because it's, you know, you're painting from digital to analog, and stuff doesn't go well. If the color isn't nailed the first try, then I have to try again. If it doesn't work again, then I have to start the painting over again. I really try to keep the paintings as minimal and as flat as possible. I don't want you to see any sort of brush stroke. Typically, they're pretty like minimal graphic images, and I like to keep it as much as possible that way.
Mhm.
I also play close attention to the digital line in the digital sketch, because I think that brings that energy into the canvas.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a really nice contrast between something that I do on my computer so casually, and then, you bring it onto this canvas that sometimes can be 5 by 6 feet. It's bigger, it's badder, it's like, it takes me that much longer. And thank God I don't have to be on my computer anymore, kind of. But yeah, that's kind of what the process is.
Yeah, that's great. I love what you said about the digital being kind of like the anti-oil painting, and yet you kind of merge those two worlds so beautifully. Last time we spoke, you mentioned that working kind of in that digital way to start is almost like a process of unlearning.
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
I think it was like I was working in collage before, and at a certain point it just became stuck. I couldn't see past the material. It just didn't make sense anymore. And I was at a job doodling with the mouse pad of the computer, and all of a sudden I was just like, oh, this is fun. This has no, like, I don't have a final result or anything. So it just, yeah, and I was bad at it. So I had to kind of like figure out how to work it. For a lot of the early paintings, I was actually just using my finger on the mouse pad. So they were like these naive drawings that that I loved. And now still, I'm not that good at it. I don't really want to get good at it necessarily. But yeah, it definitely made me not think about forget about being good at something or how to paint it. It was just this very casual. I didn't have to have a sketchbook. I didn't have to have a finished product. It was really like, it felt loose, and I liked it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just as we look through these slides, I'm wondering if you can tell us about your interest in depicting animals like the fish, the rabbits you see here. There's also snakes that appear. Yeah, can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I don't like to think too much about why I'm painting them. Just because I think too much about one idea, it's going to be dead in a second. But I think I was just thinking about like animals and how they're kind of just like these perfect vessels of communication or something, that like, what children watch on TV is like a dinosaur wearing a t-shirt. It's this really like endearing, familiar thing that'll get you or something. And I do like to think of these like, I'm taking a bunny and simplifying it to the most simplified possible state. And it's this like funny thing of like, okay, but how much of the bunny is left, or how much can someone relate to this bunny that I'm, that I'm depicting? It's like this weird thing where it's like, when does it become a design object? When is it still a thing that needs to be taken seriously? Or like, when does it become that icon or logo? And when does it still have like a bit of grit that you can like, that pops a memory in your head or something like that? I also just, yeah, I like the bunnies right now also. So I just, and even though they're repeated, they're all like their own individual thing with their own character. And they're fun for me right now. Like I usually, like, it's hard for me to go like work in any sort of series, but these have just been fun. And I think they're fun because it is this like character or something that I'm relating to. And with the snakes, it stays very, the aesthetics of a snake's body. I think that's what I'm attracted to. I think it goes different ways with different animals or something, but this for me, the snakes are like this perfect vessel of becoming a painting in itself or something. But I also think these animals, like if I were to paint humans, I think I would be painting darker paintings or something. I think the animals keep it light, they attract you instantly, and then make you think about it a little bit further if I've done my work or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that your practice started in collage, and you were cutting out images from vintage magazines, like lifestyle magazines from the 60s and the 50s. and really kind of just dissociating the meaning of those images from their context. And I think that when you say, you know, the bunny becomes like an empty vessel, I think that's kind of the same line of thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I see that your kind of repetition of these everyday or kind of more banal forms, like I know there's tulips in some of your other paintings. To me, they reference almost like a household design, like a textile tablecloth or a curtain, maybe wallpaper. Do you want to speak about that influence of pop culture and maybe the, you know, the everyday as it appears in your work?
Yeah, I think with pop culture, everybody nowadays is influenced by pop culture. I think it's unavoidable. I think of like, you know, and the amount of TV that I consumed, the pop culture, like that's kind of one idea where pop culture influences me, is that I'm kind of horrified by how much pop culture we're consuming, how much we're seeing. And then it's funny that I think, hey, I'm going to make more of it. But I think I was attracted, I'm really attracted to old lifestyle magazines. I think exactly for that disassociation with the image. It's like, I get to look at things that I'm not connected to in any way. And I look at them as like, oh, puzzle pieces, or I look at them as paper dolls, or I look at them as like, I can laugh at them in a way that I wouldn't before or something. And I look at children's book illustrations. I do look at graphic design. I do look at cartoons and stuff like that. So I'm definitely influenced by that. I think as far as wallpaper and stuff like that, for sure, I look at that kind of thing. I think the way that the paintings are now, and the fact that they look like wallpaper, wasn't necessarily intentional. But it makes total sense. And I think too, as far as just like the everyday, I think it's that familiar thing that people, you know, get from these paintings that I think make them effective or something. It's like I want you to kind of like, I want to lure you in, and I want that pop, and then maybe you'll see a bit of like the darkness or something. Or like maybe you'll see some different point of view other than just like, hey, it's a reference to wallpaper or something like that.
There's definitely a complexity to the work that I find to be, it's not super easy to articulate. And I think that's where a lot of the richness of your work comes from, is that it, you know, in a lot of ways it is very pleasant, but there's like this edge of discomfort that comes through. And I think it might be related to your unease with contributing to that pile of imagery that surrounds us, you know, that we get from being online all the time. And I see that uneasiness coming through in the way you're repeating these motifs, and that like all overness of the composition where your eye doesn't have a place to rest. And to me, and we spoke about this before, it creates like a certain type of anxiety or confrontation. Perhaps not in this work as much as others. I think the bunnies especially kind of create that jarring effect. Do you want to elaborate on that in the work?
Yeah, definitely. I think everything I paint is pretty considered. I wish I were more romantic in the way I work, but I can't just say, oh, okay, I'm going to paint flowers now and whatever. I'm going to paint, like if I'm painting a flower, it's because it's got to be this certain flower, a certain way. Probably won't revisit it exactly the same, but everything is pretty considered. Just lost what I was going to say. But yeah, I'm also not really interested in taking you away with my paintings anywhere. I'm not interested in creating a window that you can look at and get lost in. You know, you see so many beautiful paintings with a brush stroke or like a way they've blended something, and I don't hate it, but I'm not interested in having a viewer get lost in something and have this, you know, experience of passive viewing like they might have when they're Google image searching or when they're watching TV or something. I do really want to kind of confront the viewer, I guess. And I think that's why everything stays flat. I think that's why you can't go much deeper. I think that's why I don't put any brush strokes in it. I make you focus on the line work. I make you focus on that one subject that I might be repeating. And I don't give you much. So I hope maybe that makes you think something, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to woo you into not thinking about what you're seeing. I think it's nice to think about people actively taking part in it instead of just enjoying it, maybe even.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely enjoy them, but it is kind of it's more of a complex kind of enjoyment that is it's a little bit more hard won.
Well, it's funny for me too, because I sometimes I'll paint a painting and I'll be like, oh my God, this is really dark. Or I'll be like, oh no, like everybody's going to think I'm like a freak. And then it's just, I've painted a bunch of tulips and people like them, you know, because it has that shape. It has so it's, I see them, you know, I see them with this energy that I have, you know, I see the shakiness gives me, it gives me a feeling or something like that. But I don't really know what I was saying, but yeah.
Well, there's a real tension between like the shakiness of the form or the line and the really meticulous application of paint, and like how highly composed these paintings are, even though like this one, it might seem a little bit more loose and accidental. It's
Right.
actually like you're fully controlling everything.
And
Go ahead.
No, just that was I think the third time I painted that painting. I'm that much of a freak, yeah.
Yeah, but then like if you look at, you know, kind of the blue centers in the flowers, they're not centered, you know, there's that looseness that is kind of it's almost artificial in a way. Can you tell us, because we're virtual, and I know these canvases are, you know, relatively large, can you tell us like what the experience of looking at a canvas of yours is? Like, I know you said they're flat and they're thick, the paint is thickly applied, but is it like a tactile experience to look at these?
Definitely. So if you see like these digital, like this is a good example to look at, like every petal has a bit of you know, that digital shake. And when you go see them in a gallery, there's also an added layer of that around each line. I create a little bit of a bulge, I guess, like a little bit of a border to break it up even more. So it's just like I'm creating like each piece. And so this flower is, you know, a whole flower, but it really gets separated by each individual piece becoming kind of like a puzzle or something. It's like breaking apart because of these borders. So in every painting, you will see like there will be a bit of a 3D bubble element, but right around the contour of each shape. So like even though they're flat, or like even though they appear flat, they're still kind of separated, making it maybe even more of like a surface image or something, that it's like they're not even really together. I'm not even really creating a whole image or something like that. But yeah, they're definitely like bordered from each other. And in this particular painting, the background is just dyed canvas. So you also see the tooth of the canvas very clearly. And that's because, yeah, you're looking at a painting, and sometimes I don't need to hide that necessarily. So there is here. Definitely.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if like when you're looking at this, do the petals of the flower become almost sculptural? And I think you can almost get a sense of those ridges here, like there's an objecthood to each piece of the flower.
Sometimes when I'm painting, I kind of do think, I don't think I'm a sculptor, but it does feel way more like it's so I anti-intuitive. I'm not painting in a way. I'm really like constructing something, piecing it together. If it doesn't go, you know, if I don't create that perfect slice of the painting, and then it's over, you know, like I can't escape the paint, but it's not really it's like it's not really the point or something like that. So they are really just like rendered out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's something about oil paint that is applied thickly that feels very indulgent.
Yeah.
Definitely when you can like see the textured brush strokes,
Mm-hmm.
but also in your case, I feel that given that kind of heaviness of the paint, there's a sense of indulgence, and you've written that a driving force behind your practice is understanding your own feelings about the indulgent nature of art, and kind of how easy it is to find pleasurable looking in today's world, given our image saturation. Can you tell us more about this idea of indulgence?
Yeah, it's that the same idea of the like romantic. If I was a romantic, I feel like things could be easier. I could just paint and I could just get lost in my own painting and it would create itself or something. But I do think it's like, I think it's a freaky thing that we see a lot of things and that we are indulged by a lot of things, and that we experience a lot of things that we, you know, that we're sitting on our couch, and it's yeah. So I think for myself, I kind of, as much as this painting, for example, doesn't looks almost indulgent and it's eye-catching and stuff like that, it's very pared down. It's 6 colors. It's like I keep it as simple as possible, and almost like this painting might not, you know, this is like a snake that's just been, the snake has just become a design or something like that. I don't, I obviously need to indulge the viewer in a way to get them to pay attention to the painting, but it is this like, I do like to make things as minimal as possible to kind of just like maybe even pull your focus on smaller things, or pull your, I don't know, I can't bring, I don't want to bring you in, and I don't I don't think I don't work this way. I'm more like a problem solver than I do maybe in like, I like maybe then more than an art maker or something, but I do like, yeah, I like making minimal stuff. I don't know. I lost it.
I like that. I like thinking of you as a problem solver, like a visual problem solver. To me, that relates a lot to design. And when I look at your work, I think about the kind of legacy of Dutch graphic design. And I'm wondering if your Dutch heritage, or having studied in Amsterdam, has affected your practice or influenced you in any way.
Definitely. I can't speak to Dutch design, but living in Amsterdam, it's like a small city, so everything is considered in this city. Like they don't have space to have a gravel pit somewhere. It's like everything needs to be designed in a way that will work. And luckily they also design it in a way that looks good. Like their playgrounds are always kind of like pieces of art. Their posters, they don't have ads for Snickers, they have ads for theater. Like they're, you know, visually they're very good at doing what they do. I think also like I have very clean or tidy, clean Dutch parents who've, you know, like, so I think that shows in my work, very like concise and like orderly, like order. I shout out to Vincent van Gogh. He was my favorite painter then, still my favorite painter. Even though he's also now pop culture, like anyways, but yeah, I think, and there's a history there that you don't necessarily have in Canada. So when you go, there's, you know, everybody wants a painting, everybody has a painting. You go to the museums, you see a million paintings. So it definitely influenced me. And the school was a total trip. It was a lot. I went there on exchange from OCAD, and it was a totally different experience. You came and they said, here's your desk, start making art. And I came from OCAD where it was like I was taking a class, I was learning how to watercolor, I was getting graded on my watercolor, you know, 75%. It was like you were kind of, at OCAD, you kind of take classes until you're in your thesis year. and then you have to decide what you want to be. Whereas at the Rietveld, you did a basic year where you studied and did a bunch of different techniques, learned a bunch of different things, and then after that year, you were left, but you're basically left to your own devices. And at first I was like, oh, okay, what kind of art am I going to make? But it was confrontational in that way. And I made a bunch of weird art. And I had weird talks with my very Dutch professors. I had, pretty, one telling me not to use black because it's too illustrative. Like I didn't necessarily have a good connection with, like, Holland can also be, the Dutch scene there can also be quite conceptual, with which my work isn't. But yeah, I was always working representational. I was always working maybe poppy or something, and that wasn't necessarily the vibe. But it certainly taught me how to be a lot more convicted in whatever it is I decided to do. And I think being challenged is probably the best. You either passed with the green light or you failed with the red light. If you couldn't back up what you were doing, then it wasn't going to work out. So yeah, I think definitely the school was a big one. Like even Nijntje, the animated bunny in these children's books, it's all just they just really know how to make things look nice, and usually it's pretty simple. I mean, like Van Gogh, it doesn't look simple. You can get lost in those brushstrokes, but the compositions are quite simple. It's a landscape, it's something like that. There's often a lot of color blocking. But yeah, it definitely has influenced me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think I see that when I look at your work, having grown up with two Dutch parents as well, those storybooks. But I think it's like the bold colors and the geometric shapes, the use of black, how considered and balanced the compositions are. I mean, I know that's not, that doesn't have to be like only Dutch people that work that way, but I think there's a visible link there that comes through that I really appreciate. Yeah, we can just cycle through the images. Annie, that's great, thank you. I know, I don't think we have a slide of it, but there's a work that you did recently of swans that have their bellies are dipped in black oil. And is that a print? Is that right?
So that actually, that didn't come digitally at all. These were just water paint on paper works, and those came more from stencils than oil paint or something. I'm using gouache, and those are like, I want to be able to paint those on canvas, but they're almost hinging on being kind of like a craft, or they look more in the craft vein or something. They were almost instantly like iconic, maybe isn't the word, but like they were almost like instantly like, oh yeah, this is a print that you could see somewhere or something like that. And they're also really great to play with. Yeah,
I love that one. I'm seeing we have quite a few questions coming in from the audience, so why don't we get to some of those? So we have somebody asking if you could elaborate on your process, the actual making. I think we might have gone into that enough, but are there any other notes on the actual making of your oil paintings that you'd like to share?
On the actual making, the sketch is digital. I project it on canvas. Every color you see, usually I paint it separately and then let it dry. Like I'm slow at painting because I want it to be perfect, basically. So like this green was all painted at one moment. then I probably had to do another green over top and maybe even another green just so I can get a really opaque green. And then the yellows would probably be painted in one, and then the white. And I have to leave time to dry because if I put my hand, I don't want to smudge anything. But yeah, it's a lot of layers, and because it's oil paint, it has to be, you know, it's more often the paint is translucent, so the layers have to come, they have to just be layered a bunch. Other than that, I don't know. They get drawn onto the canvas and painted. Sometimes I can use tape. I tape something off. If it's a white, for example, if I tape it off and then paint a few layers, it makes it more opaque, and then I'll go over it with hand. Yeah.
So you have the digital drawing, which is then enlarged and projected onto the blank canvas.
Yeah. Shh, don't tell anybody.
We're revealing your darkest secrets.
Yeah.
We have a comment here. I walk by your tulip work most days at the corner of Redpath and Sudan in Toronto, and it brightens my day. I thought they were digital at first.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, that's there's some prints on hoarding at Sudan and Redpath. And it's nice because those, I actually got to print those out without any, they're actually digital. So you can actually see the pixelated line, and it's a really nice, crisp, like blocked out line. And it still works really well. It's nice.
Nice. Was that part of a public art commission or something?
Yeah. Yeah. Just, I think they wanted to kind of not have posters and stuff like that. So they wanted somebody to design some stuff.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, we have lots of other questions. Is there a way to see your artworks with details about it? I like the idea behind it and the kind of media that was used. I guess basically, is there like a resource where people can look at more of your art and maybe get more details?
My dad would kill me because I don't have a website, but my Instagram, and you could DM me. I could always help somebody and tell them and give them more detail. You can email me. I think on some of the sites where I've had an exhibition, there are detailed shots. I think, yeah, it's a shame. I should have put detailed shots in the slideshow, but yeah, DM me.
Great. Kathleen has just put Dana's Instagram in the chat, so there you go. You can follow her. Another question: how does humor and absurdity play into your work?
A bunch. I'm not like, the talk was kind of daunting because I don't consider myself a very serious person. So I think anywhere where I can kind of get a little bit of a laugh, I think I want it. But I think like with these bunnies to me are not funny. They're like, I find them kind of dark, but yeah, because I'm using because I'm influenced by something like a comic book. You can see that here with this landscape, just like oversimplifying everything. I think you probably instantly think that way. You know, you'll instantly be like, oh, this can be funny, or this can be whatever. And if you look at some of these funny bunnies, then yeah, there's also like humor. But I think that it's also just a good way to lighten the mood, you know, and if there's something dark I want to create, I think it's kind of like an easier way to infiltrate or something. But yeah, I think it comes out because of what I like myself, because I like, you know, cartoon, because it becomes so simplified that it's a cartoon. That will come out somehow.
For sure. I know I touched briefly on your one of your works on paper, but somebody is asking if you ever worked in printmaking.
I did, but in a really different way. When I was printmaking, I was kind printing collages. So it was like way more realistic and from a magazine. But I would love to, printmaking is its own fun thing, because it's like you become the machine and it's so easy to lose yourself in it. And it's, I really like it. What I always worry about is if I were to print one of these things, like even print this bunny, that it will lose something, that it, like, because there were, I don't know, I think I have to do it anyways, but it's, I love the texture of oil paint. I think that gives it at least a little bit more seriousness or something. So it's hard to think of them in prints, but I think it would definitely work. And I love screen printing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that you would like that process because it's so highly technical and controlled, but I can also see that you would lose that that tension again between your subject and the oil paint. That is so unique and so wonderful about your work.
Yeah.
I'm going to check. We have lots of comments, lots of love in the Q&A for you. Someone says your dad is correct. You need a website today. So in your bio, we mentioned that you have work coming up at the Plum Project Space.
Oh, sorry, that was a show that happened. So that happened.
Oh, it happened.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So which work did you show?
The big bunnies. The one with the big bunnies, this one.
This one, right? Okay, in the context of a group show.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And is there anything else coming up for you that you're excited about, that you're able to tell us about?
Yeah, I have a show with the Lucky Gallery in the spring, which is going to be very nice, a solo show. So I'm already kind of in the works for that. And I have a public art sculpture, which is a whole other world that's coming in, but that's still on very, very early stages. And it's pretty horrifying because it's sculpture and it's 12 feet tall, maybe. And
wow.
but it is exciting. It's out of my comfort zone for sure.
That's huge. Congratulations.
But a solo show at Zlucky in spring, I think maybe even April next year.
Okay, so in a year's time.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And are you already working on new work for that, or are you kind of seeing where things go?
I'm slowly getting it now. Yeah, it takes me a long time. And if a painting takes 3 times, then I better start in advance. And I'd love to have. I don't want to do it last minute. I want to have the work, and yeah, so it's in the works for sure. That's
great. That's really exciting. For those of you who don't know, Zlucky Contemporary is a really wonderful commercial gallery in the Junction that does, really high quality programming with a lot of contemporary artists from Toronto and beyond. So we will keep an eye out for that with much excitement. And Kathleen's put a link in the chat. Thank you, Kathleen. I guess in relation to your public art work, there's a question about kind of other directions that you might be going in, and what subjects and objects are you planning to work with next?
In painting or in public art, or?
I guess in both. I personally am very curious about your public art pieces.
I'm not going to say anything. I have to see it before that's where it's like, I like having control, and this is something that's not, you have a concept, but there are so many moving parts, and it's so daunting that I can't be like hovering over being like, and this has to go this way. So it's very scary, but it's exciting. But as far as things I'm going to paint next, horses, and I have a lot of things I want to paint next. I'll revisit a bunch of things. I think I really want to start painting more houses. You saw some at the beginning, but I think right now, especially, houses is no one wants to be in them anymore, but yeah, there's something there that because it's not a living thing, but it's a thing we're living in, and there's a lot I think that can be played with there.
Yeah, absolutely. As part of our Art in the Spotlight series, we like to ask artists how they're doing in the pandemic, and I'm wondering how the last year and a bit has been for you with all of the isolation.
I was doing fine until now, I think. Now and I mean, I'm still doing fine, but now feels a little bit darker than it did before. And I'm not going to go on about it because I don't want to get dark, but I got really, really lucky at the beginning of the quarantine pandemic because I got a very good commission through Vanessa Runyons for a large painting. So I wasn't immediately stressed about money. I stayed in the house. I kind of like, I'm pretty good at being alone. I have a partner, so that's really fortunate. And then eventually when everything started loosening up, I was at the studio, and it was really, I didn't have to, I've always had to have a part-time job. So having, and I couldn't work at it anymore because of COVID, and having this good commission, and also having a few people who bought paintings, I had a good base. So I was able to go to the studio every day, and it made me realize basically that having time to be in your studio is just about as valuable as having the materials you have, as the ideas or whatever. It's like I always thought I couldn't make it as an artist, and I think that had a lot to do with the fact that it's like, you need chunks of time to focus on what you're doing. Sometimes when you go to the studio, you don't want to do anything. You want to stew in it. You want to whatever. You want to be on your computer. So when you were working a part-time job, it got, divvied up. And then, after you work 3 shifts, then you had to go to the studio, and you're exhausted and you're not whatever. But so this has been a really, all bad things aside, for me personally, it's actually been a really good year. And I've continued to have a lot of people commissioning work. I've continued to have a lot of people buy my work, which is just so lucky. And it's just giving me time. It's given me a boost of confidence, to be honest. It's been a weird time, but as far as for my creative juices, it's been good. And I'm really happy and fortunate for that.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
And then congratulations on the sales. I know that's really important. And it's great to see your work entering different collections in the city. If anyone listening is interested in perhaps purchasing work at this point, would they just contact you directly?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, we have one final question, and it's a specific one. Are you influenced by William Morris?
William Morris, that's the wallpaper guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's I don't look, no, I can't, like this one maybe, but no. I also don't, I try my best not to take from anybody. I think I try my best not to, what is that word? Yeah, I don't want to steal other people's things. I'm gonna try my hardest, my darndest to make my own. But I see it, and I know this would be something that could be influenced by it. But I will look to him, and I'll admire him, and I'm sure something is snuck into my brain because of him. So yeah, maybe I am influenced by William Morris.
Maybe through the giant pile of internet imagery.
Yeah.
You are
this small or something. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I would like to thank you so much, Dana, for taking the time to speak with us today. And I am a huge fan of your work. I know many people are. So keep it up, and we'll look forward to seeing what's next. I am thrilled to discover this public art project of yours that's so mysterious. But yeah, thank you again, and hopefully we can see each other soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. This is a nice opportunity.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.